This is Investor Ideas, and we're here at Money20 in 2015 in Las Vegas at the Venetian Hotel. Money20 is one of the largest events covering payments and financial services innovation. And what better place to host this than Las Vegas? So if you want to have some insight into the future of money, from mobile payments to biometrics to Bitcoin, this is the place to be.
Vinod, this is certainly a treat for me. You are quite a legend in Silicon Valley and beyond. And before Khosla Ventures, of course, you were with Kleiner Perkins, and then before that, Sun Microsystems, and you have a rich track record. So I know I'm excited to speak to Vinod, and I hope all of you are excited to hear what you have to say.
Look, I'm really excited. It's great to see so many people interested in fintech. This is really exciting, especially the number of entrepreneurs here. It's really, I love speaking to entrepreneurs. So.
It's an amazing conference because it's grown, I think, about 2,000 or 3,000 participants this year alone, which speaks to the interest in this area. You know, the first question I actually want to ask you is, why did you come to Money20 this year? Because this is your first time here.
Well, money is really exciting area.
No.
Not so much making money, that's always good. But the amount of innovation and disruption possible, and how many new things that can be done. If you look at this whole space, it's a very large space, nobody can debate it. Even niches are tens of billions of dollars. That's exciting. What's even more exciting, unlike some other very large spaces, like say airlines, there's a lot of money being made, which means the current participants have very good margins. That's exciting because that means entrepreneurs can make very good margins. So large space, great margins, many of the incumbents trapped in their own profitability, so it's harder for them. And they're all smart to go disrupt themselves. So it's up to you entrepreneurs to do that.
You've already, Khosla Ventures has invested in companies including Stripe and Affirm and Square. So what I'd like to know, and I'm sure everyone in this room would like to know, what does it take to be a Khosla Venture investment?
Also, one, we cover a lot of broad areas. Yeah, not only Stripe and Square and Affirm and OnDeck, which we did a while ago, or Fundbox, or Swift, or I can go on and on. In the blockchain side, Chain and Blockstream, but there's really even more interesting areas like financial services and real estate. New companies like Cadre or Roofshack or Open Doors, really exciting. Things that we don't think of as fintech, but really are financial services impacting very large areas. So first thing I'd say in answer to your question, actually if financial services are impacting an area, that's really exciting. We love great entrepreneurs. So I'd say the single largest criteria is how great an entrepreneur is. And most of the ones I've talked about, the companies that have been successful, like Stripe or Square or Affirm, have just had great entrepreneurs that blow through walls. And then it's their actual plan matters. It should have a way to establish unusual advantages. That means advantages accumulate and build up. Generic markets are much less interesting. So those are some of the features. Any area, large disruption, great entrepreneurs, it's sort of obvious.
Within the financial space, your investments are varied. Is there one area, though, that gets you a little bit more excited than the other, be it crowdfunding or payment or blockchain? We can go through those one at a time if you'd like. I'd love to hear it. But is there one that really gets your heart racing a little bit faster than others?
Yeah. So going back to an earlier question, why is this area exciting? I think there's a nexus of a bunch of things that has suddenly enabled innovation. You know, we sort of knew analytics. But analytics with some of the newer tools like deep learning and sophisticated machine learning become a massive new area where it truly obsoletes things like FICO scores or Bank of America's traditional scoring systems for credit risk. So machine learning and artificial intelligence kinds of technologies dramatically changing what's available as tools to really assess risk. Then you look at things like blockchain that is radically changing the transaction costs of systems. Allows for all kinds of services that are backwater services, whether it's escrow services or authentication services or identity services or settlement or liquidity, even software contracts, really exciting area. You look at that and then say, it's all been enabled by consumer markets. People like a firm going directly to consumers at the point where they're making a purchase where a traditional bank couldn't go. So all sorts of new things enabled by this nexus of 2 or 3 different technologies coming together and the world moving to mobile. Much of it wasn't possible 5 years ago, and now it's really, really exciting.
And moving at light speed,
yeah.
I think,
and we can talk about what's enabled by each of these areas. Maybe we won't have time, but I'm happy to.
Well, let's start with the blockchain. As you were mentioning, the different contracts, etc. What else is enabled there that you're interested in seeing developed?
Okay. Take a simple thing that many financial institutions do, settlement. Why should it take so long to settle things? It's silly. I mean, it's downright dumb. If you're a small merchant and you do a credit charge, you should get paid the same day. If you're selling stock, it should settle the same minute or 2. So settlements is a really exciting area enabled by blockchain. In fact, Blockstream just announced a product called Liquidity, which is a settlement system based on sidechains, which are even more exciting to me than blockchains, and I won't go into the technical details too much. So that's one. Escrow services, they should be automatic. Simple software contracts. We are here in Las Vegas, but why do you need Las Vegas to do betting? You don't need a central party. You can do software contracts, you can do much more fine-grained betting. I'll bet you Stanford will beat Notre Dame and be up by 7 points at the half.
I'll take that bet.
I'll take that bet.
It's my alma mater.
We won't go there. Software contracts is a really exciting area. The one that bugs me the most, land title. Title insurance, we spend every real estate transaction spends so much money on title insurance when it should literally be a free cost. Spending money on brokerage and selling a house, it's so expensive. Then we pile on fees like title insurance, which is an institution that does nothing of value. It is true. So, look, I could go on and on. Even secure storage, digital identity, all of these should be blockchain functions, and frankly, they should be sidechain functions. And you can get into very sophisticated versions of sidechains. You can have private sidechains, you can have small community sidechains, not subject to all the machinations of an institutional mining system. So all kinds of sophistication is possible, and that's what makes it very exciting. I find it hard to imagine that in 20 years we'll need people to do any of these things.
I was going to say, how long do you think it will take? Because we've been hearing about it, quite a bit about it, over the last 3 or 4 years since Bitcoin has kind of come to the fore. I don't think we've seen anything yet that people can kind of hang their hat on. What kind of a barrier is regulation to this development, though?
You know, regulation in many areas is a barrier. What's good news for all the startups here, though traditional institutions have advantages in meeting regulatory compliance, things like that, it's not as hard as it seems. We've had multiple companies go through money transfer licenses and other regulatory compliance. This is one of the few areas, say compared to Uber and taxi drivers, where regulation generally favors the startup. It's not biased towards the startup, but it's more encouraging of competition. And that's a really good thing. For good or bad reason, we ended up there. And it's very good for startups, and regulation actually is a competitive advantage for anybody who can move fast, because it's meant to encourage competition. So that's a really good advantage. But what I'll say is traditional institutions, they're very smart about it. Look, most good banks, fairly decent percentage, and I'm sure there's plenty of people here from the institutions, are very smart about this, very astute, but they are trying to protect their traditional large profits. But they're all experimenting with a block stream or a chain type API to build services. But they will not disrupt their own great profits. And that's where startups have an advantage. Many of them will partner with startups, and I think that's a real opportunity for both the big institutions and the small ones.
That leaves out the small banks, though. Do you envision a day when it's just large banks in the US? Because it seems to me at this point right now, the future that you're talking about, the reality actually right now, it's even the present that you're talking about, favors large banks because they have the money to acquire the technologies that might be developed or develop their own in competition. The small banks, which make up the majority of the banks in the US, of course, they could be in trouble.
I like to say, I don't know about small banks versus large banks. What generally happens is when a new area like financial services is open to disruption and innovation, and disruption is an overused word, let me stick with innovation. Some of the traditional incumbent players adapt very well because they're experimenting and trying new things and partnering, and they do well, and others go out of business. So in the computer business where I started many years ago, HP and IBM did fine. And new companies like Compaq came up, and Sun and others.